Let's go to another team as we go through the Angel Devil exercise. And I want to go to the Dallas Cowboys. And Frank, good sir, I would like to take the Angel on this. I don't know if you're passionate, but I would like to take the Angel on the Cowboys if you would let me.
Go for it. We might have two Angels here, but I'm interested in what you do.
If we do, we're going to go for it. I don't care. We're going to go. We're just both gonna, we'll make a devil's advocate at the end of this.
We'll bring in somebody. We'll call Jory. We'll have her phone in or something.
I'll do an alter ego at the end. But look, here's the thing for me. Last year on this show, when we started working together, I was passionate the world was wrong about the Buffalo Bills. I was passionate that they were using playoff failures to judge who the Bills were going to be going into last season. And I was passionately right because the Bills were still very good. Everybody keeps telling me that the Cowboys are going to take a massive step back, but nobody can give me a real answer as to why. I'm not talking about winning in the playoffs. I'm just talking about who the Cowboys are. They've won 12 games, 3 consecutive seasons, and they bring back most of what they needed there. Sure, they don't have a running back right now, but look it up last year. Tony Pollard averaged 60 yards a game. They got to replace 60 yards a game. We're not talking about replacing Eric Dickerson in his prime. We're talking about 60 yards a game. So everybody wants to tell me about the contracts. They want to tell me about all the things that Jerry Jones said. They want to tell me about how volatile all of it is. I don't want to hear any of that because that has nothing to do with what actually happens on Sundays. And last time I checked, for the last 3 years, 12 out of 17 Sundays, the Cowboys come up winners. And I can't find a single reason other than, well, you just can't rely on them, that anybody can give me why the Cowboys are going to take a physical step back. They are a 12-win football team that will go into the playoffs and have every chance at winning a playoff game. Where it goes from there, I don't know. But I refuse to count the Cowboys out as anything less than a 12-win team going into this regular season.
I'll do a devil's side. It'll be half-hearted because I completely agree with you. Like, I just saw that at BetMGM, the win total went from 10.5 to 9.5. And I'm like, okay, well, it's another season I'm going to be on the Cowboys over because this team is still very good. And it all comes back to, and this is so dumb, but we have to, when you talk about nobody can give you a good reason, I'll give you the reason everybody's down on the Cowboys. It's because of one comment Jerry Jones made when he said, we're going to be all in this offseason. And then they didn't do that because they know they got to pay CeeDee Lamb. They know they got to pay Micah Parsons. They got to figure out the Dak situation. They couldn't be all in. It was just crazy Jerry Jones saying something silly and it just caught wildfire, right? And everybody has judged their offseason on that. Their offseason wasn't great. Like, they did lose some depth, but they didn't lose anybody where I'm like, oh man, you can't replace Tony Pollard. Like you said, Tony Pollard wasn't very good last year in a featured role. And I'm not saying Rico Dowdell or Ezekiel Elliott's the answer there, but if you're going to be weak at any position in the NFL, it's running back. You can figure that out as you go along. This team's going to pass all the time anyway. We saw that last year. Dak was really, really good doing it. I don't see the reason that the Cowboys are a 9-win football team all of a sudden. Yeah, maybe injuries happen. Maybe all this contract stuff really blows up in their face.
The maybe of injuries is real for everybody. Like, if we're going to say maybe of injuries, that can happen to anybody. Fitz.
Exactly. So I can't even sit here and say that. Like, but somebody, if Dak gets hurt and they go 7-10, everybody's going to say, I told you, the Cowboys stink. Like, no, the Cowboys, again, they're a 12-win team that's going to choke into playoffs. That's who they are. That's what we know about them. They're not going to be 9-8 this year. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't see it. I think they're better than Eagles. I think they're going to win the NFC East. The negativity of the Cowboys, again, goes back to Jerry Jones saying they're all in. They didn't follow up with that, and I get it, but this is not a bad football team. They're a very good football team, and I just think this whole, every offseason, we're going to be dealing with this over-the-top negativity with the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, they lost a playoff game. Yeah, so what? They did lose a playoff game. They look terrible losing that playoff game. It doesn't mean they're an awful regular season team. It doesn't mean they're going 9-8. I think this Cowboys team is going to be good. Now, the devil's side of this is that all the contract stuff does matter here. We see it happen. And I use the example of T. Higgins, a lot of a guy who he's in a contract year and all of a sudden his play just falls off. And I kind of get it. Like, we might see that with Brandon Ayuk this year, but we might see it with the Dallas Cowboys with Micah Parsons, with CeeDee Lamb. I'm not questioning these guys' professionalism, but when you're not locked in the NFL and you're having negative feelings about your contract situation, it can affect your play. That's what happens. And the whole Dak Prescott situation, which is going to be resolved next offseason, we don't know where that's going. That could be a distraction for the Cowboys too. And the running game could be terrible. And some of these losses they had on both sides of the ball really could affect them. And the one thing we're going to talk coordinators. Dan Quinn was awesome. There's a reason Dan Quinn got that job with the Commanders. He was a great defensive coordinator. They were taking the ball away like nobody else in the NFL. And can you replicate that without him?
Yeah, but they replaced him with Mike Zimmer, renowned to be one of the better coordinators in the NFL. They're not replacing him with you and me. Like, and they're not doing the Belichick thing and putting somebody as defensive coordinator that, has never done it before.
Never, yeah.
Like, I do think that there's some element. I'll buy the Dan Quinn argument because of Dan Quinn's greatness, but also Mike Zimmer was a head coach in the NFL because of his, reputation as a coordinator. So I think that I can't find it. And you make all the compelling points that people want to make. I just don't think there's anything there. Like, we're not hammering this section. We're going to hammer it in a little bit, but I am hammering the over on the win total on the Cowboys at an aggressive level,
Agreed.
at an
Aggressive
level.
Why would I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be 3 wins worse than last year?
Which
Because
is the
they lost
exact
their
thing I
center
said
to
about
Washington?
the Bills.
Who cares? Like that. I don't get it. You're right. Like, yeah, it's the same with the Bills, where it's just, again, it's all about overrating what we see in the playoffs and just holding on to that. And did you forget that Dallas Cowboys have been 12-5 2 straight years in a row? They've been one of the NFL's best teams. They've been great. Just because they had a bad day against the Packers, it really snowballed on them quick. You could see that I think the pressure got to them once they fell behind early. Dak threw an interception, whatnot. But it does happen. It doesn't mean that they weren't a 12-win team during the regular season. They were really, really good, and I have no reason to believe they won't be really, really good again.
All right, we got a few more teams to get into. So when we come back, we'll get some of the hottest teams that everybody's paying attention to. We've got Chargers, we've got Jets, Bills, oh my. Plus, we're going to give you some things to hammer. That's coming up after we get back. All right, we're back as we go through Angels and Devils. And I still, every time I look at Frank, see those orange headphones, and I feel like I'm in a Vegas nightclub. By the way, you want to end up with me and Frank in a Vegas nightclub. It's a time. I'm telling you.
We had a good time.
Right.
Vegas was bad to us in some ways, but good to us in others. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, Frank, I'm just saying, Monday night game this year in December. Maybe the boys run it back. Okay.